Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. Our next segment is going to be on a Catz vs Dragon match from MLG Spring Championships in Anaheim. It's going to be the Proxy Hatchery Zerg vs Terran, a build, if you're on the forums, you may have heard about. It's been going around for probably about 2 months now. And first we'll talk about how to open with a Proxy Hatchery and the correct way to open the build. Then from a Terran point of view, different couple reactions you can do to a Proxy Hatchery, and also talk about mid-game Terran versus Zerg aggression and a couple important things to keep in mind if you're a Terran player wanting to be aggressive in that mid-game. So we're jumping to replay and start off fair theory. And the one thing to note is, if you're going to do the Proxy Hatchery build, you want to scout your opponent. So you send your first turn out to scout them. I think the scout left around 12 supply. Then of course you send, you want to go Hatchery first as well, just in your natural. So a very normal Zerg opening from the start. The most important thing is your scout drone needs to identify if they're going command center first or not. Because if they're not going command center first, you do not want to proxy hatchery your opponent. If they go barracks first, you try to proxy hatchery them, what's going to happen? They're just going to build marines. They can build a bunker right by your hatchery. It'll be finished before your hatchery's even done. And you're going to be in trouble. Your hatchery's not going to accomplish too much. So make sure you go command center first, which of course Catz has already figured out. He already scouted, saw the command center being thrown down. Then what you do, so if you notice the build order, hatchery first, you're natural, right? Then, still no spawning pool. Another hatchery. It's a 3 hatch before pool opening, which if your opponent goes command center first, there's no threat of early Reaper, early Hellions, there's nothing that can hit you early. You don't need that spawning pool super fast. You get that 3rd hatchery down right at your opponent's natural. And then the next step is going to be, of course, get a few drones to replace it. Then you get that spawning pool. So you're going to be supply capped just a little bit. Like right now he's stuck at 18 supply, but that's okay because you really want to spend your resources on buildings right now, not units. So that's why you get supply cap for a bit. Once you get the spawning pool, then you get your 3rd overlord, get that guy started. Now as we fast forward, the next thing we're going to keep in mind is the reaction from a Terran point of view. So he didn't even see this until just right now when he goes down, he's thinking about walling off his base. All of a sudden he sees the hatchery almost done. Immediate reaction is, of course, to build this bunker because he wants to be able to throw marines inside the bunker. And the reason you want the bunker is because your opponent can overwhelm you with Zerglings. Now, well, I was a little bit interested in why he canceled it and rebuilt it over here. Because when you're thinking about bunker placement, there's 2 things that are important. One, make sure you can shoot the hatchery. That's actually not even that super important because even if your bunker's out of range, you can pop the marines out, shoot the hatchery, and they can back up. Now, I think he put the bunker close because he was afraid of spine crawlers coming up in the back. But the real priority is to make sure the bunker can't be picked off by Zerglings, right? If you know you're only producing marines 1 at a time, your opponent can have much more Zerglings than you can have marines. So if you look at the unit count right now, it's 12 Zerglings, right? And 2-3 marines, even in the bunker, can't defend that. So one of the best places to put bunkers is actually right below the ramp, where there's that service area and your marines on the high ground can cover it, or right on the ramp right here, where you can easily pull marines back on the ramp. You can do cool micro tricks. The further exposed the bunkers are, the more vulnerable they are to just Zerglings overwhelming them. Unless you want to pull a bunch of SCVs prematurely and kind of hang out or make a wall. Without one of those 2 things, you can see here, the Zerglings can quickly surround the bunker. There's no clean way to get SCVs down the ramp to protect this bunker. Marines get cut off from going into the bunker because it's a little far away. And now they can easily take out the 2nd bunker as well. So, from a Zerg point of view, the Proxy Hatch is really cool because 1, it's just a fun way to play. And then 2, a lot of times if your opponent hasn't seen the build before, they're going to react a little bit off. Like Dragon did here, putting the bunkers out further than they really should have been. And it's an easy mistake to make because how many times do you encounter the Proxy Hatchery, of course. It's very difficult to react correctly to it. But now he's in a very difficult situation. He's going to be contained for a while because, of course, it takes a while to clear up the creep. So the best thing to do from a Terran perspective is 1, he needs to get his tech started to get some tech up. His gases are kind of late though, just because of the opening he did. So it's gonna take a while to get the siege tank, the medevacs, the units that he needs to break down this ramp and retake his natural. So if he knows it's gonna take a while to break down, but he has extra minerals because his gases were late, the next step is obviously to spend those extra minerals and getting more orbitals. So even if you do break down your ramp late, that's okay because in fact, there's a 4th command center going up right now. It's okay to break it down late because there's so many mules. So the instant you do get down your natural, you can throw a ton of mules on that, have a ton of economy, even though you're on a very limited number of bases. Now, from Catz's point of view, how's he going to follow this up? He's not going to try to do some crazy Owen, right? He knows that, okay, he built a bunch of Zerglings early to defend his hatchery. That means his drone count isn't that insane. They're equal workers, and there's 3 mules coming up here. In fact, there's a 5th command center on the way. So right now, Dragon has a much superior economy. But Catz has a great contain going on, so that means he can build nothing but drones and tech up, of course, for the next few minutes. Going ahead, taking his own third base as well to try to maximize the advantage of having map control via contain. One of the most important things to realize in StarCraft is there's so many ways to get map control. And a lot of players will do all these things to get it, right? They'll build units, they'll try to contain their opponent, they'll invest in a harass force to keep their opponent at home, whatever it takes to take map control. But map control is only worth something if you use it to better your position, right? The whole point of map control is, one, if you have it, your opponent can't expand, or expand very easily. And then two, they can't stop you from expanding or building your economy as much as you want. So unless you're taking advantage of those two factors, there's no point in having it. So that's why Catz, as he's containing his opponent, he's focusing on bettering his position, taking the third base. He's been droning up a decent amount. He's also trying to tech up. So he's going for a mutas fairly quickly, probably because he's paranoid about drops. But you notice he hasn't built a single combat unit for the last 3 minutes. It's been nothing but workers and buildings and technology. No combat units for the last 3 minutes, taking advantage of the fact he had a nice little contain on his opponent. So we fast forward here. Dragons, of course, is going to eventually break this, taking out the hatchery, losing some marines in the process. But even once he kills the hatchery, even once he kills these spines with this siege tank, it's going to take a little while to clear up this creep. So we're just going to fast forward a little bit as Dragon tries to clear up this creep. And now he's going to go on aggression. And even though this game opened weird, we're at a position that, if you ignore the fact there's creep over this area, it's not that unusual, right? Terran's moving out to attack their opponent in mid-game with Marines and something else, right? And Zerg's on 3 bases. Terran has a bunch of orbitals. You know, he might be on 3 bases as well. The most important thing to think about in Terran versus Zerg, if you want to do mid-game aggression, that's, you know, you have an army supply somewhere between, let's say, like 80 and 140. That's probably mid-game aggression. If you have the army supply against Zerg, there's 2 things you have to consider. One, the Zerg army is much faster than your army, right? So if Zerg has more units than you, and your army just can't beat them, if you move out and you don't have medevacs, they're going to surround and slaughter you, and losing that many units will then basically give them the map for quite a long time. They'll get very far ahead. So knowing that factor, you have to consider, okay, if I move out to attack the Zerg, 1, do I know that he can't have a much larger army than me? Which means, okay, I've been doing some like hardcore 2-base timing where I'm putting so much resources into units, there's no way he has a big army. Or 2, do I have enough medevacs that if he does have a bigger army, I can pick up and get out of there and not worry about being surrounded by Zergians and losing my entire force? So if you're from Dragon's point of view, when we're looking at the game here, you can see, okay, number 1, is there no way my opponent can have a much bigger army? Well, I mean, he's invested in so many orbitals, and the fact he doesn't even have stim packs, so that really weakens his army. It's actually possible that Catz, if he was building a bunch of speedlings, he could have a much larger army. Now, right now, it's not that much large. It's only 16. But 1-2 round of speedlings, if he gets, you know, produces 20, 30 more speedlings, he can easily overwhelm this. So it's a little bit risky to move out into mid-game. And I'd recommend, unless you're very confident in your status in the game, that you're a little bit stronger than your opponent, I would recommend not moving out unless you know your opponent has less units than you. Now, I think the reason why Dragon moved out here, of course, is because he thought, oh, Catz maybe has been making nothing but drones, and I have to put on some pressure, or else I'll fall too far behind. I'm already kind of far behind with this creep, you know, messing up my natural. But it really did backfire because he just took a pretty big hit there in the units lost column. And this is actually, if we back up just a second before that engagement, we can see the units lost are actually favoring Dragon by a little bit because he's killed the hatchery and the spines and all that stuff. So he actually was favored units lost there. And then after that battle, it wasn't so efficient, and now all of a sudden he's behind by about 600. So in the mid-game, it's very dangerous for Terran to move out because you can just get your army squashed like that unless you have medevacs or a very huge army that's going to always trade cost efficiently. You know, you have a bunch of Widow Mines, you have medevacs for the Marines, or you just have so much that you know your opponent can't possibly overwhelm that army. So now, of course, Catz is going to have the map control. Losing some mutas there a little bit sloppily. And he's also been able to find his opponent's expansion here. That's going to give him another nice advantage. And from here on out, it's a very, very tough game for Dragon. Economically speaking, he's down by a good amount of workers. He has a bunch of orbitals, but he can't really. He's too far behind in supply to take a third base. So yes, he can take the natural, but his main's pretty much mined out because of the heavy muling. The natural going down quick as well. Upgrade speaking, Catz is even has more tech than Dragon. Dragon's starting 2-2, but so is Catz is basically even with that. All the advantages are in Catz's corner. And he goes and he closes out the game in another 5 or 6 minutes. Of course, Widowmines get very efficient in some of these engagements, and it's not as good for Catz as it could be here. But he is able to close out the game a few minutes later, just compounding his advantage. Continuing to on his opponent's third base. Dragon will mine out of the natural eventually, and Catz goes on to win. So we're just going to stop the replay there. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. How to play when ahead is Zerg, deny your opponent expanding. Eventually they mine out and starve. But the cool thing there is, a lot of Zerg players, so much of Zerg is like being perfect on your macro, your injects, your droning, and it's just got it kind of is a grind to play Zerg a lot of times. So if you're out there, you're playing so many games of Zerg, you're going like 3 hatches, trying to get your drones out, your opponent pops in your base with a bunch of Hellions, you lose our drones, you're getting frustrated. Try a little bit of a fun build. So go ahead, scout your opponent. If they go in command center first, do a proxy hatchery or natural. Make it your third hatchery, then get the spawning pool. Make sure to get some Zergians if they get bunkers. Try to take those bunkers out, and then get a couple spine crawlers, a queen to help spread creep tumors. The most important aspect is the queen, because it's not so much about trying to not let them ever beat you as far as defending your natural, because that's not going to happen. You know that what you want to do is build a lot of drones behind us, which means you're going to have a stronger army, and they're going to be able to take out your spine crawlers. But what's important is that your queen is there spreading creep everywhere, so that by the time they do take out the spine crawlers, there's so much creep there it's going to take them many scans to ever clear it all up and take their natural, let alone their third base or potentially fourth base later on the road. So if you're having fun, just go ahead, try out the build. It's a pretty fun build. As a Terran player, if a Zerg does that to you, if you went command center first, try to make sure that the bunkers protect each other, and that they have very little surface area. So you can even make some depots next to them. As long as the bunker gets up, that's a rally point where you can then pop Marines in and out of the bunker and micro it just like you would if you were bunker rushing your opponent at their natural instead of yours. So wraps up our Proxy Hatch ZvT and Catz vs Dragon. We'll take a short break and be on to our third gameplay segment.